The groundbreaking musical Hamilton is the hottest ticket on Broadway. Everybody knows that. It tells the story of founding father Alexander Hamilton using hip-hop.
Every expectation, every action's an act of creation. I'm laughing in the face of casualties of sorrow. For the first time I'm thinking past tomorrow. I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. And it will just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Since Broadway previews began in July, Hamilton has sold tickets worth more than $61 million. Its Grammy Award-winning soundtrack has been certified gold, earning $6 million in the U.S. Now fans can get a backstage look at the musical in a new book, Hamilton the Revolution. It is co-written by the show's creator and star Lin-Manuel Miranda and cultural critic and theater artist Jeremy McCarter. Both of them join us now at the table, and welcome.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having
us. This is a masterpiece here as well.
Oh,
it's a beautiful book. Yes, really well done.
I don't even know what question to ask you after all that you have been through. What's it like to be at the center of this?
Exactly the same as it was when we opened in August. That's the great thing about Tommy Kail, our director. He's really wonderful at keeping the temperature the same inside the theater. You know, I have to say the same words that I did when we opened the show, and it's just as hard to rap for 2 hours and 45 minutes and sing and dance. So we just keep doing the show, and we know how hard it is to get in right now. So we're really aware of that and try to make
Beyond the
special.
commercial success and all of that, what do you think it's accomplished?
I will leave that to your pundits to describe. I'm really in the words of the show, in the eye of the hurricane.
Yes.
For me, the fun of writing this book was it actually gave us sort of a moment to reflect on the making of it. Jeremy introduced me to Oscar Eustis.
Yeah.
We became friends when he was a critic and I was a writer, which does not happen very often.
At Jets and the Sharks.
Yeah, Jets and the Sharks, for real.
Right.
Yeah. And so he was one of the first people I told about the idea when it was still a concept album in my head. And so he really was the witness to all of it. So he was the only person who could write this book.
Yeah.
So Jeremy described that when he first sent you a demo with some of the songs from Hamilton. What did you think?
Well, he handed me, it was so long ago now that it was a CD. I mean, he handed me a CD.
What is that?
Yeah.
Kids ask your parents.
Look it up on Google, you'll understand.
It's one of those moments I'll never forget. He came in, I introduced him to Oscar, he gave me this CD, I went home to my apartment in Brooklyn and listened to it, and that was my first exposure to a half dozen of the first songs that he wrote.
I'd written like 5 or 6 songs.
And even now, when I listen to Helpless, which is Eliza's song when she's falling in love with Hamilton, Lin sent the demo of Helpless, which is Lin himself singing it.
In a terrible falsetto.
In an amazing, very distinctive falsetto. And I remember when the song ended, I thought, this is a crazy idea, but this is also going to be the best show of its generation.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in the book, it's interesting, because that story right there's so many of the Cliff Note moments of this was what was going on at the time. How do you sort of want that to grow with this so that in the future, 10 years from now, kids look at it and say, here's the musical, here's the whole story behind it. This really is a revolution.
Yeah.
It was on my mind a lot that I helped the Public Theater do its gala a couple years ago. It was about a chorus line. It was a celebration of Marvin Hamlish. And so I had to go back and do the research and try to reconstruct what had happened, how they put the show together. And what I found is it's really hard to get those details back after the moment has passed. So in writing this, it's like the show actually. You and Tommy Kail, the director, talked about wanting to tell the story, which is not about this historical fact and that historical fact. It's about the emotional reality that these people were living through. So I wanted to try to get it down on the page. This is not just what happened, but this is how it felt at the time. This is the experience that we all went through, and there was some heavy stuff that happened in the making of this show. So that 10 years from now, when kids are doing it, they can pick up this book and say, oh, that's how they did it. Now I understand.
One of the actors said to me that it connected him to the history. For once, he felt part of American history.
Well, I mean, I think that's the secret. I think the secret sauce in the writing of it is I wasn't much of a history student as a kid. My research was in Ron Chernow's biography and then finding finding a connection, an empathetic connection to Hamilton, and then learning all this stuff as I was writing it. I'm the teacher who's learning it a chapter ahead of his students, and so I think that enthusiasm for these details and these incredible stories is what is the secret in the sauce.
Yeah, but you're such a prolific reader. I mean, just reading about all your favorite books, I was like, oh my gosh, I've fallen behind here. I mean, there was a piece over the weekend, I think, or last couple
and
weeks.
And he grew up on Broadway music.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So there's the annotations in this book are so great. So the scene when Hamilton and Washington are talking, one of Hamilton's lines is, "But they don't have a plan, they just hate mine." And you have a little footnote here, number 9 says, "This is familiar in contemporary politics." Yeah. They don't have a plan, they just hate mine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, I think what's fun and resonant about those cabinet battles is that the battles that Hamilton and Jefferson had that really created our two-party system are the battles we're still having. What is the size of government and the role of government in our daily life? What is our role in the affairs of other countries when we were still a new nation and even now? We're always going to be having those fights. They're a part of the fabric of our creation. And so you don't have to update the language that much when you're having Hamilton and Jefferson fight about it.
What's the essential quality about Alexander Hamilton that you like the most?
I like that I was in awe of his prolificness and his relentlessness. You know, he's an incredible writer, and he wrote so fast and so well. I mean, the Federalist Papers alone, that's anyone else's legacy. He's got that and his treasury, and he's a soldier, and he's a lawyer. You know, our first murder trial in the United States, that's him and Burr were the dream team, way before O.J. Simpson.
There has been a knock, and it was recently in the New York Times, about this idea, though, that you're not showing the full story of Hamilton. Not all of him, and why sort of leave out the other stuff, the bad?
Yeah, well, I'm the first to admit it, and I've said it in interview after interview, you could write 12 more musicals about Hamilton, and there's so much I left out, you know, including the city of Philadelphia, where much of Act 2 takes place, and Native Americans. But what's exciting is we've got 20,000 students coming to see this show over the course of the next year.
It's the dialogue.
And one of the things that's part of the curriculum when they come to the show is they're creating performance pieces based on other histories. So it's going to spark those stories, the stories that aren't told in the 2 hours and 45 minutes we have with you. Young kids are learning about that, and the part of this is seeing what stories they're going to tell us.
Have you set an impossible standard for whatever you might do next?
You tell me, Charlie. I don't know. I'm just going to try to write the next
Jackie
thing.
Robinson papers.
Yeah. Well, that's an incredible story in its own right.
Yeah. I want you to address, too, this recent controversy, because the show has been praised for its diversity, but there was a casting call seeking non-white actors, and that raised some backlash.
Yeah.
Respond to that.
Well, it's funny. That was the original language we used to get the cast we have now, and it was meant to be inclusive. It's to tell performers of color, you know, I know it's about the founding fathers, but there's work here for you.
Yeah.
You know, but you take that spotlight and you go like this, and suddenly it looks very different, right? Suddenly it's a campfire story. So, you know, we changed the language to make sure everyone knew that, like, we have never turned anyone away from auditioning for our show. That was just never the case. That being said, this is a story where I think the diversity of what's on stage is essential to its success.
How long will the existing cast be in the performance on Broadway?
Everyone's contracted for a year, and everyone has the option to re-up, and we'll see where we land.
Thank you
Congratulations.
so much.
Yeah.
Again, just a beautiful book as well.
Yeah,
it
thank you
really
so much.
sort of tells a story in itself.
With pictures, too.
That's
Lots
right.
of pictures.
Amazing picture.
Lin-Manuel Miranda and Jeremy McCarter. Hamilton, The Revolution is on sale today.